All right, guys, welcome back to Downtown Rams. As always, I'm Alexis Kraft, joined here with my co host Jake Ellenbogen, and we are coming to you live tonight to recap our Rams win against our division rival, the San Francisco 49ers, on Sunday, 42 to 26. Jake, it's always nice to get a win, but it's even better to get a win when it's against your division rival, especially a division rival who has also been competitive in the NFC West. So every win counts in this division this year, right? And so to be able to even the score with them after we lost to them earlier this season is huge for the Rams record. Also, it wasn't that we just won. We dominated this game. And people can say what they want about that game and who was playing and who was healthy. But listen, we played a similar 49ers team earlier in the season and lost. So we came back fresh, ready to go, and absolutely dominated both offensively and defensively. Jake, it was so fun to watch this game. And you were there. What were your thoughts?
It was great. That was awesome. I mean, it felt like I deserved that after going through whatever the hell you could call that shutdown, that meltdown in week 5. I mean, clearly the Rams are the better team. They were better week 5. They were better now. They were better when the 49ers were healthy. They've always been better. I think it's kind of funny, and I just, I just laugh. Like, you have to laugh at this point when people are constantly bringing up injuries. And I saw you liked my tweet on this, but I'm just to the point. I'm tired of the excuses. I mean, say what you will, not the biggest Lions fan, but how many injuries did they have on their defense last year? Was it like 8 or 9? Yeah. So they found a
Yeah.
way. And it's like the 49ers have been finding their way. But you can't just keep using that excuse. The Rams dominate the series. They're 4-1 in their last 5 games against the 49ers. And we're constantly talking about how they have injuries. Constantly. So at some point or another, you are who you are. And the 49ers, whether it's the training staff that they've recycled about 3 or 4 times now, or it's Kyle Shanahan, who's the common denominator. Does he put his players through, too hard of a practice? Is he too tough on them? Does he give them too much of a workload? I think that there's an answer somewhere in there, but that's well beyond my pay grade. It has nothing to do with why the Rams won this game. They won this game because the 49ers could not stop their 13 personnel grouping. They were able to move the ball down the field. I still think the defense did a nice job, all things considered. Mac Jones wanted to get rid of the ball quickly. But, Alexis, this game was fantastic to be at. I thought Levi's was pretty cool. We're in this 215 section where it is on the visitor side, so you get absolutely caked by the sun, and that's why I have a sunburn. I'm covering up right now. But, aside from that, I mean, we got like free food. They had like this club. It's like all you can eat, free food, free drinks, which was really cool. And I'm just going to say this. The Santa Clara 49er fans are a lot nicer than the LA fans. I'll tell you that right now. The LA 49er fans are not fun to be around. I know I sound like I'm clumping in. I have met nice 49er fans on both sides, but man, even the 49er fans on my flight, that's a whole other story that we will not get into. But yesterday, traveling was quite the feat there. But the point is, I had a great time. Shout out to Chris Zeffro, who's sponsored the Downtown Rams live during the draft. He sent me out there. I had a great time. Met all sorts of people. Tuna, first in Tuna, Pierce DeLuna. Really appreciate him. Got a chance to meet him. Saw my friend Alan, some other people as well, Julian. It was great. And it was great because this is one of those games where, say what you will, everyone is lying through their teeth when they say they want a close game. They don't want a close game. You want a close game for a game that you have no interest in. That's what you want a close game for. You don't want a close game. You want games like this where you're just in control the entire time and you don't have to stress it. And when you're watching Rams football, most of the time you're going to have to stress it. So we'll take this all day, Alexis. This is exactly what the doctor ordered. And finally, the Rams blowing out the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay not being afraid to actually blow teams out. They've blown out teams in 3 straight games. I don't think that's going to happen this week against who I believe is the second best team behind the Rams in Seattle, but we'll take it. We'll absolutely take it, and I'm excited to get more into it. But yeah, those are my thoughts as I finish this long little rant.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a fun game to watch. I mean, it wasn't a perfect game. I don't think any team in the NFL is going to ever play a perfect game. There were mistakes. We'll talk about a few of those, but just overall, I felt like this Rams team came out ready to dominate. They understood the assignment. Obviously, the way that things went in the first game, they did not forget, obviously, and as I know the fandom hasn't either. And I think defensively, a lot of people are kind of bringing up some things about the defense this game. They weren't perfect. I would have liked to seen them pressure the quarterback a little bit more. We could talk about that. But overall, a much better game from them against San Francisco than they did the first time that we played them earlier in the season. Our defense really struggled against San Francisco in our first matchup. So it looked like they were ready to correct those errors and come out and kind of understand what Kyle Shanahan was going to try to do, right? As you mentioned earlier, Mac wanted to get the ball out quickly. I think the Rams defense looked a lot more prepared for that this time than they were earlier in the season. They understood that that was what was going to happen and they were able to figure it out. So that was really fun to see. And then offensively, I mean, our offense has just been so fun to watch when they're in 13 personnel, right? I mean, but also just the past few games, Matthew Stafford has been incredible. In my opinion, he's the MVP. I know he is in yours too. So to watch him, throw, for those touchdowns, and you look at who scored, like we earlier in the season, Jake, when we were doing these episodes, we kind of were like, who other than Puka Nakua and Kyron Williams is going to score, right? We were like, we have to start diversifying who's going to get the ball. We have to start getting the ball to more receivers and showing that like more people can be effective in the red zone. Well, this game you had a Devontae Adams touchdown, Puka Nakua, Kyron Williams had two, Colby Parkinson, Davis Allen. You're seeing the ball finally get spread out in the way that I know all of us were wanting it to be. So it's really, really fun that the Rams have figured it out. It looks like they found a personnel that worked for them. The offensive line has been great. I think particularly in run blocking, they've looked really, really good. But it's just it feels like they're all coming together, right? It feels like the chemistry, like they're finally finding their stride here in the middle of the season. So it's really nice to see. I think we should talk about the offense first, Jake, while we're at it. I mean, Matthew Stafford. Listen, when we went from, the wondering what was going on in the beginning of the season to where we are now. I feel like he has, in his career, been one of the most underrated quarterbacks. And I think even now, with the way that he's playing and the stats that he's putting up, he's still underrated. He's having an MVP season. He's leading the league in touchdowns. If you would have told us that Matthew Stafford would be leading the league in touchdowns early on in the season when we deeply struggled in the red zone, I don't think we would have believed it. So, Jake, what are your thoughts on what Matthew Stafford is doing right now?
Oh, he's sensational. He's the best player on the planet right now. He's the best in the world at what he does. I mean, is Josh Allen more talented because he can run? Absolutely. Maybe he has a stronger arm by a little bit, but I mean, I'm just saying. I think we've literally reached the point where Stafford's gotten so good, he's the best quarterback in the world right now. And he's got the ring, and he's had to overcome, I was just talking about this earlier today, he had to overcome the injury to Robert Woods and not having OBJ for 3 quarters and, playing without 3 of your top tight ends, in Munt and Blanton and Higbee, right? Like that's the thing. Like, he's found a way. And just when you think that they're done, they're 3-6, they're 1-4, he's been at the forefront of a turnaround. And I think Alexis last year had 20 touchdowns. This year is 25 already through 9 games, which is wild. But last year he had 20 touchdowns because, Kyron Williams was toting the rock in the red zone, and he was so consistent, so efficient. I feel like now it's going back, like where it's like they had to give Kyron 2 of those touchdowns in this one because it's just gotten out of hand where they're just throwing every time and no one can stop them. No one can stop them. All of a sudden, really what it is the connection between Stafford and Devontae Adams. That's what it is, because we saw them try to force it earlier in the year. I'll tell you right now, if they were on the same page they are currently, back when they played the 49ers week 5, back when they played the Eagles week 3, those games would have been won by 10 plus points. That's truly how I feel. It's not just that they should have won, they would have comfortably won with that. So right now, Stafford is in his bag. And the great thing is he had to go through a season where at the beginning, the pressure was getting there. He's just getting rid of the ball quickly. He was already used to not having this absolutely shut down offensive line. And now the offensive line still not on that level, but they're healthier. And he already has those habits, kind of ingrained in his brain. He knows when he needs to get rid of the football. He has the internal clock. And what, Coach Bill Belichick said, I thought was great on one of his podcasts. He's like, look, Matthew Stafford is more wise than he's ever been. And when you factor that in, it's like, okay, yeah, you have the talent, but now age 37, you know what works, what doesn't work. And you've seen, a lot of what works, and you've already won a Super Bowl. It's only going to make you a better quarterback. And naturally what you're seeing is Stafford isn't really falling off either. I mean, he's getting better with age because he's still the same, talent arm-wise and all of that. But now you're factoring all those years of going through every single type of circumstance, good or bad. He has seen it all. And so you're starting to see a guy who's more confident than ever before. He always has been. But the way he delivers the football, it's pinpoint. Very limited turnover-worthy plays this year, but even when he's thrown them, only 2 interceptions, he's a gunslinger. It's not like he's dinking and dunking his way to 25 touchdowns and 2 picks. No, he's going down the field. He's hitting, Devontae Adams on that 20-yard dig route. He's going deep to Puka Nacua, by the pylon, 50-yard bomb. He is testing defenses, and he's not turning the ball over. And I think that's the beautiful thing, because when you have a franchise quarterback that is a gunslinger and is known as somebody that can throw 300 yards plus a game and throw all over the yard, but he takes care of the football, well, now you got somebody who's practically virtually unstoppable. And that's what we're seeing with Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, he is so fun to watch this season. And I think that with our wide receiver duo of Adams and Nakua, who are also just fun to watch in general, you've got that trio out there, and it's great. And now you're seeing, you obviously have, Kyron Williams in there, or you get, Corum involved as well, and then you have a steady run game. But you brought up a good point. Part of this has been that Matthew Stafford is now allowed to kind of thrive in the receiving game in a way that he wasn't really last season, because in the red zone, like you said, it was like you kind of just ran it with Kyron Williams. They couldn't do anything else, at certain points. And that was a big point of frustration, I know, for the fan base. And I think we kind of started the season a little bit that way. Yes, we started 2-0, but we started to see kind of like those old hauntings of like red zone errors kind of creep up again. And we're like, we can't do this again. We can't just like rely on the run game in the red zone, right? So it's been really, really nice to see the Rams get involved more in the passing game and diversifying the ball. But yeah, I don't know if you have any other thoughts, on the offense. I just think, look at all those tight ends. I mean, we talked about it before earlier in the season. We were like, oh my God, utilize the tight ends, right? Utilize Terrence Ferguson out there starting, right?
Yeah, I think that after watching that game, I knew coming in, I mentioned it, 13 personnel throughout the week. But to see them orchestrate it the way they did, that is why I named this podcast episode, Do the Rams Hold the Key to an Unstoppable Offense? They're running an old school 13 personnel. This is old school football. And they're modernizing it to the point where they're scoring over 30 a game since they switched to it. What we're seeing is an unstoppable Rams offense. Davis Allen barely had fewer snaps than Puka Nacua. Like what this does on so many levels. First off, it's week 11. In week 11, when you start running 13 personnel and you have 3 tight ends and you're using them more than anybody in the league, now defenses are not equipped to defend it. There are defenses that they don't see 13 that much. They see 13 personnel at like a 10% clip against a team that actually runs it, like Seattle. The Rams are doing it at like a 50 to 60% clip. The Rams just ran 13 personnel, the second most since 2016. this past game. So what this does is now it puts defenses in a really tough spot because they don't have the personnel grouping to coincide that. You can't just be like, oh yeah, we'll just throw Luke Gifford out, like whatever. No, because these guys aren't built to cover these tight ends. That's another thing. There's so many layers to this. So I really want to delve into this so people understand. Colby Parkinson, Davis Allen, Terrence Ferguson, Tyler Higbee. None of them are better than Brock Bowers. None of them are better than Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Trey McBride. Insert your elite tight end there. But all four of them together, when included, statistical or not, they can block, they can catch, they can make plays after the catch. They're good athletes. What this does now is essentially you don't need an elite tight end because you're running 13. You're basically just taking guys in and out of the four. All these guys are playing, and they all have their strengths and their weaknesses, but they all can do it. So here's the deal. When you're running 13 personnel, only one wide receiver and one running back can be out there at the time. Now, that's also another thing. You get a running back and a wide receiver. So don't make it sound like they just have 3 tight ends out there and they can't do anything after that. Think about this. You could have the most athletic group that they're going to be looking at, right? You could have Puka Nacua, who's like another tight end, if you will. You could have Terrence Ferguson, Tyler Higbee, and Colby Parkinson, and then you could have Kyron Williams at running back. So what are you defending if you're a defense? And Stafford has such a quick trigger, and he has multiple arm angles and arm slots that he can really get the ball in any which way. What are you defending? Are you going to defend Puka Nacua? Are you going to defend Parkinson? Are you going to defend Higbee? Are you going to defend Ferguson? Are you going to defend the slip screen to Kyron? There's so many different ways to go about this. On top of that, that's if you know they're throwing. Who's to say they're throwing? Most defenses are going to assume they're not throwing when you're in 13 personnel. It's a heavy run personnel offensive set. So what that does is it just puts all sorts of different things for a defense now in their mind to think about. Davante Adams isn't out there. So people will be like, well, now they're not as potent because they don't have a situation where Adams and Puka are out there. But here's why 13 is great. You don't have to have Puka out there every time. You could have Konate Mumfield, which they did. You could have Xavier Smith, which they did. You could have Jordan Whittington, which they did. The point being is this is going to help on so many levels. Not only does it create another dimension for a team to worry about, to create, to spread out your offense, create mismatches because all these guys can play. But in addition to that, it's also going to keep Puka Nacua, Davante Adams, and so forth healthy. It's going to keep them fresh. If you're not following along, guys, the Rams have clearly shown us that they care about keeping their players fresh. It's why we saw Blake Corum and Kyron Williams practically splitting the carries. Is Blake Corum a better running back than Kyron? No, but they're splitting carries because right now they want to keep Kyron fresh. And look at, Davante Adams. He doesn't even play more snaps than Davis Allen in this game. Now, I knew something probably had to do with the fact that they were blowing him out, but still, it's very interesting. So now you don't have to have Davante Adams playing 60 snaps a game. You don't have to have Puka Nacua playing 60 snaps a game. Everybody in that running back room, wide receiver room, and tight end room can get opportunities. And all of these guys can make things happen when you have an MVP quarterback in Stafford. So, Alexis, there's a lot of good that's coming from 13. No one else is really running it. We've started to see, we knew that coming into this year, the Rams wanted to run more 12, which is a 2 tight end set. But the 13 here has been just absolutely dominating teams. And yeah, it might piss you off if you're a fantasy owner of whoever, but Colby Parkinson, Davis Allen, Terrence Ferguson, get used to it. You're going to see these guys spread out very often. And, you got Matthew Stafford who could deliver the football. So yeah, Alexis, 13 personnel. That was my biggest takeaway from Sunday. That was the most excited I think I've ever been because you can see Sean McVay, and it almost felt like Kyle Shanahan didn't buy that McVay was going to stick to what's working because he doesn't. McVay is sticking to what's working. And guess what? Before I send it back over to you, Nick Muse was just picked up today on their practice squad. I thought
Yeah.
this was very interesting because he's a very athletic tight end, had a 1.63 10-yard split, very good. I believe it's like 80 to 90 percentile for tight ends. And this is like a 6'4", 255-pound tight end who benched 27 on the bench press. Very high percentile there, so he's strong. The reason I bring this up, you might not see him, but the point of doing this, it tells us one thing. They're going to stick to 13 personnel. They're using all 4 of their tight ends. This is how you create depth issues. If you use all 4 of your tight ends and one guy goes down, now you can't run your offense the way you're trying to run it. You can't just rotate because now you don't have a rotation. You only can use, if you go 13 personnel and one of your tight ends is injured out of the 4, you have to use all 3 every time. I think what's allowing the Rams to do what they do is they're able to rotate between those 4. So insert Nick Muse now, who's on the practice squad, who signals he's going to learn this offense, and he signals that the Rams are serious about this. This isn't just a fluke. This isn't just a, whatever. It's not for show. They're serious about this. Actions speak louder than words. When you pick up another tight end, you add him to the building. There's a reason for that. They're going to be predominantly a 13 personnel offense, and I'm very excited about it.
Me too. It's really, really fun to watch, and I think you're right. I think all signs point to the Rams continuing to run 13 personnel, so that'll be really fun to see. Switching over to the defense, Jake. As I mentioned earlier, they didn't have the best showing against San Francisco the first time that we met this season. I think that was kind of a point of surprise from everybody. I mean, Shanahan, you have to give him credit where credit's due. He's pretty good at his system for his quarterbacks, and he made sure to get the ball out quickly for Mac Jones when we play them, and that kind of tripped our defense up. They got gassed, they got tired. It wasn't something that they looked really prepared for, understood what was happening. That was not the case this game. I thought the defense looked really well. It wasn't a perfect game from them. I think that, there was times in the game where we saw the 49ers offense start to get a little bit more hot. They had George Kittle this time. He obviously is a very good player. They were able to feed him. That was able to give our defense fits at times. But overall, Jake, I just think all things considered, I don't have too many criticisms on the defense. I think pressuring the quarterback, you could make the argument that the pressure wasn't where it needed to be, but at the same time, Mac Jones was still getting the ball out pretty quickly. So it was very similar to when we played them the first time. In essence, it wasn't, I get that people are like, why didn't we get more sacks? Or why was Mac Jones not hit? Right? But he was getting the ball out so quickly that it wasn't really, there just wasn't really a lot of opportunity, I felt like, for them to get a sack. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I understand the point. I wish we would have got more pressures, but I also just think specifically the 49ers plan was to get the ball out as soon as possible.
No, I completely agree. Absolutely, 100%. So that's the thing is I understand people wanted more sacks, but you got to understand when guys are getting rid of the ball that quick, I mean, it makes it difficult. And so, typically speaking, right, Mac Jones, he's getting rid of the ball at a 2.83 second clip, which is, I mean, that's not wicked fast, but, it's still fast. I want to see real quick what he is for the year, because Mac Jones for the year. So actually, he's just getting rid of the ball quick in general. He just gets rid of the ball quick. So, yeah, when you're getting rid of the ball that quick, it makes it tough. And I feel like it's different with the Rams. When they play the Rams, there's more of a concerted effort to be locked in. And, I saw an interview with George Kittle saying, every time it's Rams week, my wife will come in and wake me up and tell me, get locked in. It's Rams week. It's they treat the Rams games differently, which I think you and I could totally see just by the way that they play the Rams. So I think that, it's different. When they played Tampa, you saw Mac Jones hold the ball a little bit longer, instead they're more locked in. So yeah, it is what it is, but I'm not too worried about the sacks. I've always said I'm not too worried about the sacks. I think that in a lot of ways, the pass rush could have been better, but I'm still really not worried about it. Byron Young won 20% of his reps. Kobe Turner playing, from the interior, won like 13+% of his reps. Ty Davis won 25% from the interior. If you want to say one thing, I thought Jared Verse kind of got held in check by Trent Williams, but I'm not worried about it. I'm really not. I mean, I think that, people are a little overblowing, the Rams pass rush. I'm really not worried about it. And keep in mind, this is a team that blitzes one of the fewest in the league. So that's another thing. Like, they don't really like to blitz. They blitz at a 19.6 clip, which is fourth in the league for the fewest, and so that's something to keep in mind. I mean, they really don't blitz very often. And I think they just wanted to go more like lighter box. They assumed when they got the lead, hey, let's just play this thing close and, let's not give up the big play. Let's not get him back in this game. And it's like, yeah, even if you give up a long drive and it ends in a touchdown, it's like you're still making them eat up clock. The clock is your friend when you're up 21-0. I don't care what anyone says, right? So that's kind of my thing. I think that was also part of just the fact the Rams scored so much. I think they had a completely different game plan that they switched to after they took a 21-0 lead. That's just my opinion, but I'm not worried about the defense. I understand what people say. And then they're going to, they also bring up how, Brian Robinson ran for 5 yards carry and, what does that look like? Is the run game? No. They're probably the best run defense in the league. And Brian Robinson, to explain, was running against lighter boxes. And so when you have that kind of battering ram style that he runs with and you have that body, it's hard to bring him down. And now you're telling me you're going to have just like Jalen McCullough in there, and you're going to have DBs, and you're throwing them at, Brian Robinson. That's what's going to happen. So I think Kyle Shanahan knew he wasn't able to do a whole lot. And so he wanted to keep the run game going. And when he saw them go into more of like a lighter front and, playing more of that soft zone, I think he was like willing to actually start handing the ball off to his better running back. And yeah, I said it. Christian McCaffrey's not a good running back anymore. He's a good receiver. He doesn't run the ball well at all. And we saw Brian Robinson was clearly better and scored a touchdown because of it.
Well, before we get into supers, because you've got a roundtable tonight,
Yes,
so
I
we do have a time limit. I want to lastly bring up Nate Landman.
Boom.
The peanut punch he has perfected. That's
The
a tongue
one
twister.
punch man.
He has perfected the peanut punch. Try saying that 10 times fast. But I just wanted to give him a shout out because he's so fun to watch. And he also did it again in the game as well. That it just didn't result in the fumble, but they showed the replay where he
So
did
close.
the punch, but the receiver just got it.
That was on Kittle, right?
It might have been on Kittle.
Or it was on Kittle or McCaffrey. I can't remember. I think it
might have been
Kittle.
Kittle. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was on Kittle. But like it was, he almost had two. But
He's
regardless,
insane.
he's insane. I just want to give him a shout out before we
Yeah.
got into supers because I felt like, he's become a really vital piece of this defense and has played so well for us that you got to give him a shout out.
Yeah. No, I get that. I'd give a shout out to E-Man. Emmanuel Forbes was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Back-to-back weeks.
Yep, another big game from him.
And I don't know if you saw, I took the liberty of tweeting it out because I wanted to give him his props. Not seeing enough people talking about him. Emmanuel Forbes, right? Get this. So Emmanuel Forbes, through the last 3 games, has a 25.8 targeted passer rating, has a 46.7 reception allowed percentage. He has 2 interceptions and 2 PBUs, and he's in the top 5 in PFF ranking. He's been awesome. I saw in the comment section someone asked about Darius Williams. Well, Darius Williams' playing time went down because he got hurt, and then Emmanuel Forbes took over, and he's been sensational. So hopefully it keeps going. I have a feeling Seattle's going to get the best of him on a few of them, especially because you have JSN. But yeah, I love what I'm seeing from his overall growth, and I think the next week is Tampa. So I think next week, and I'm not saying I know anything, I'm just like trying to figure it out. I think next week is when we'll get news on Akello, and then they'll open up the IR window, and I think he'll be back 2 weeks after. I don't think he'll take the full 3 weeks. So you'll have a corner to quite literally match up against any type of receiver because you'll have him, you'll have McCreary, you'll have Emmanuel Forbes, you'll have Kobe Durant, you'll have Darius Williams. I mean, that cornerback room is absolutely disgusting. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Give Forbes some credit. He was great.
Well, and with that, let's get into supers. And real quick, I see some comments asking if I'm going to be at the game this week. I am no longer going to be at the rivalry game. That is, I was going to say that at the end, but I'm seeing comments at it. But I'm no longer going to the rivalry game. The travel situation has become a nightmare, as Jake experienced this weekend. And I kind of made the executive decision just based on what's happening at my airport in LAX that it was I don't believe my flight's going to go through anyway, honestly. But so that sucks. I'm really, really sad about it. I'm bummed. I've also just like been sick, so the combination of that and like me just being so drained and like getting over being horribly sick just seemed like a really bad combination. So I'm not. I don't love that travel situation, but I will maybe be at SoFi later on in the season, or I will definitely be there if we make the postseason, which it's not jinx it, but I will hopefully be there. So sorry guys, I will not be at the rivalry game this weekend.
Yeah.
No one is more bummed than me, but I think I
it.
made the right choice.
I
Yeah.
get it. I mean, it's because I feel like it's only going to get worse before it gets better with TSA and all of that. I don't. Have you ever used Clear before? You know that.
Yeah.
They got me through TSA in 2 seconds. It was crazy, right? So that was awesome. And I'm thinking, oh hey, I think I texted you. I was feeling good. I was like, oh yeah, no delays or anything. Delay. Oh, you might miss your connecting flight. Delay again. I was like, oh my god. Alexis, I didn't know. I think I turned in a 2-2 Atwell when I got off the flight in Las Vegas. I had to go across the terminal and get to my flight to Albany because there wasn't one like left. Like I would have had to literally, I know some people are like, oh, first world problems. You would have had to stay the night in Vegas, you know? But I'm one of those people when my trip ends, I'm done. I don't want to extend anything. I'm good. Like my trip was over. I was ready to go home. Plus I'm sunburned and I have a cold. So yeah, the perfect combo. But I had a great time. It's just I didn't want to prolong it. So yeah. Then they left my luggage in Vegas. So there was that.
It's just a mess right now. It's just a mess.
Yeah.
And I'm in Chicago, and it's a massive airport. There's so many connecting flights in and out, so it's just so congested already. So it's being hit really hard, and so is LAX, obviously. So I was just like, you know what? I'm not getting good vibes, and I've been sick too.
More congested than the Downtown Rams podcast co-hosts to put together.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes or no?
What's more congested? Downtown Rams right now or all the airports in the United States? Poll will be up later. No, but all right, we can get to supers, but yeah, sorry guys. I'm bummed.
Courtney, appreciate the 10. My fave,
Thank
Jake
you,
and Alexis, the calm before and after the storm. My question is, how can our defense slow down the Seahawks offense? Do you think the Rams draft another tight end this upcoming draft? Yeah. I'm going to hit the latter part of this because, thank you, by the way, Courtney, because I love this. I think the Rams add another tight end. I don't know if they draft another. What the Rams have done, by the way, in this 13 personnel and showing this usage of their tight ends is they've now become a very intriguing destination for those talented tight ends that aren't quite top dollar. I think they could find some steals now in free agency. They could literally be like, hey, look what we have. We have a factory here. Literally, you come in, you can block, you can catch, you're going to get used. So that might be, that. But I see what you're saying. I mean, they definitely, could end up drafting somebody. I don't think they'll draft anybody super high. I don't think they're going to get anybody like Ferguson, but then you don't even need to. I mean, there are always tight ends that fall through the cracks. I mean, George Kittle was a 5th rounder, But, yeah, and then the question is, how can our defense slow down the Seahawks offense? Great question. If the Rams can't stop the Seattle Seahawks run game, it's going to be an interesting thing because the Rams have yet to play a game where a team really was able to run the football. The Colts, I guess, were the closest, but even still, it wasn't like Jonathan Taylor was breaking off 20 and 30-yard runs every which way. So it would really put the Rams in an interesting spot. I guess what I would say is this. The Rams need to continue playing their type of defense. If they try to play bump and run, Seattle has too many guys that can win off the line of scrimmage. I don't know if Torrey Horton's going to play. If he does, he can win off the line of scrimmage. So can JSN, Cooper Kupp to an extent, and of course Rashid Shaheed. So there are still guys. Cody White can do it as well, and they're tight ends. I mean, we saw, Arroyo's a guy that you really liked in the draft, Alexis, and Elijah Arroyo we saw, I think against the Texans or the Commanders, I can't remember which one off the line of scrimmage, took the top off the defense and caught a bomb. That's what they can do. They're explosive, and they're really keen on explosives. The Rams are an explosive offense that is also fine going 17 plays, 75 yards, and a touchdown. Seattle doesn't operate that way. They are really reliant on the explosives. So it'll be interesting to see. I think the best way to slow down the Seahawks offense is obviously to eliminate the explosives. The Rams defense is top 5 in the league in doing that. And I think you're really going to need to keep JSN somewhat in check. But what I would say is you go back to that Vikings game last year against Sam Darnold, at SoFi, and the regular season game. Darnold played well, but the Rams were keen on letting Justin Jefferson get all his yards as long as it wasn't a touchdown. And I honestly think that really helped them, because when you just are like, oh yeah, they're going to keep going to Justin Jefferson all day. But if you can score, and the Rams scored 30 in that game, and you can hold all the other guys in check, well, eventually, you can force a turnover. And that's, what I think the Rams might try to do. They might just be like, yeah, JSN can get his yards. If they're empty yards, it's not going to matter. You can't give up the 40-yard play. You can't give up 60-yard play. It seems like he has one of those every single game. But if you're letting him have 10, 10, 10 here, 10 there, 8 there, 7 there, that's fine. That's what like I said, that's what the Vikings did with Justin Jefferson, and the Rams won that game by 10. So I don't know. That's kind of how I think I would slow him down. We'll see.
I'm in agreement.
Okay.
I'm in agreement with that. And sorry, we have other supers and we have like 8 minutes. But I agree. I think you got like JSN, obviously big problem. I am very curious if Torrey Horton plays, but also remember they traded for Shaheed, right? So you talk about explosiveness. I think that this game is going to be a battle of the offenses, truly. I think that we're in for like a very high, and we'll talk about it obviously more in depth on Friday, but I feel like we're in for a very high scoring game. So I think that these teams are actually pretty similar to each other in a lot of ways. So I'm curious. I mean, the defense plays our offense in practice, right? So I think they're going to be seeing a similar thing against Seattle.
Yeah, absolutely. Zaylor Swift, love the name. Love seeing the tight ends cook. Our linebackers scare me. Tackling is going to be important this Sunday. Landman makes great plays, but he definitely missed some. I think you're being a little hard on the linebackers. I thought they played very well. But I get what you're saying. I think from that perspective, that one play in particular where you get Landman out kind of, all alone, and was it Tonjes that scored the touchdown?
Farrell.
Oh, it was Luke Farrell. Okay. That play, it just felt like I actually said something to Chris to the effect of, I don't think that should go on Landman. And the reason why is I think at a certain point, when the quarterback has held the ball that long, you've done your job in coverage. Anything after 12 seconds, like, you've done your job in coverage. At that point, that's on the pass rush for not getting there. So I do think the pass rush was at fault for that. But anyway, Zaylor's back at it. Thank you for the 5. Also,
Thank
penalties
you,
stayed pretty clean Sunday. Got to keep it up. Discipline. Our secondary's biggest test is the Seahawks. It's true. 100%. Yeah, I think they're going to trust him too. I don't think that they're going to try and scheme around JSN. I think they're going to play their style of football. I don't see much changing, and see if it's good enough. Chris, speaking of my friend here, thank you for the 20. Thanks again for coming out. Had a great time. Let's do it again next season. Absolutely. I'm definitely down. It was a lot of fun. And then Matthew, thank you for the 5. Being held in check by Trent Williams, that may be the best to ever play that position, isn't a major concern. Yeah, it's true. It's why I was just highlighting it. I'm not really worried about the pass rush, just giving Trent Williams his props. I think if I was going to complain about anything, I thought Rob Havenstein got worked personally. And I thought Alec Jackson was a little disappointing. But, yeah, that's pretty much it as far as that's concerned.
For, Matthew.
Yeah, and...
I think that's going to do it for us. Oh, no.
No, it's not a super chat, but I saw this and I was like, be still my heart. Appreciate it. Yeah. It feels like I've been talking since that. Well, I probably have. So yeah, it's fun though. But yeah. Any final thoughts?
Just obviously very happy that, the Rams got the win. We were able to kind of get our revenge, right, from earlier this season against the 49ers. And as I mentioned earlier, the NFC West is no joke this year. Every win matters. So this was really, really important for us to kind of break even with the 49ers. And we've got another matchup on Sunday against another division rival who leads our division, right, in Seattle, who I think is the biggest threat to the Rams in the division. So it'll be really, really fun to talk about that Friday night. But guys, that's going to do it from us. If you like what you hear, as always, please like and subscribe. You can follow us on social media at Downtown Rams. You can follow me on Twitter /X at the Alexis Craft. You can follow Jake at JK Bogan. And guys, go check out Jake on the NFC West Roundtable after this. But until then, as always, stay safe, take care, and go Rams.